We are starting chapter 2 today, specifically chapter or section 2.1. 2.1 is on properties and operations. We will talk about several different properties: the commutative property, the associative property, identity properties. Take a look at a few examples that utilize those. And then we will also be taking a look at some conversions today as well. First of all, the word commute. So we said we're going to have a commutative property. Let's think about what that word means, commute. Where have you heard that word before? Your commute to school, that's how you get to school. That's how you're changing locations. The word commute means to change locations. So the commutative property is the one that says, if I add two things, I can switch the order around, I can change their locations, and it's still equal to each other. A plus B is equal to B plus A is the commutative property of addition. An example, 3 plus 4, that's 7, and 4 plus 3 is also 7. Nothing new there. Multiplication is also commutative. A times B is equal to B times A. 4 times 3, 12, is equal to 3 times 4. I can change the location. I can switch around the order when I add or when I multiply. Not when I'm adding and multiplying, but if I am adding, I can switch the order. If I'm multiplying, I can switch the order. Subtraction, 4 minus 3, 3 minus 4, positive 1, negative 1, they're not equal to each other. Subtraction does not have a commutative property. Division also does not have a commutative property. Commute means to move, to change locations. What about associate? The associative property. To associate with someone is to group with them. Your associates are the people around you. The word associate means to group together. The associative property means if I have A plus B plus C, I can do the A plus B first and then add C. Or I can do the B plus C first and then add A. I can group the first two together, or I can group the last two together, and they're equal, 3, 4, and 5. If I do these first, I get 7 plus 5, that's 12. And if I do these first, I get 3 plus 9, which is also 12. Addition is associative. We have an associative property for addition. We also have an associative property for multiplication. A times B times C is equal to A times, if I do the B times C first. And let's just look at an example that shows that it is true, at least for this specific example. 3 times 4, nope, 2 times 3 times 4. If I do these first, I've got 6 times 4 is 24. If I do these first, I get 2 times 12, also 24. Subtraction is not, division is not. If I do these first, I've got 4 minus 5, that's negative 1. Here I've got 7 minus negative 2. Minus negative is plus, that's 9, not equal to each other. So it only works for addition, it only works for multiplication. That is the associative property. Example 1 has a couple different parts. It asks us to evaluate 5MP, 5 times M times P, when M is 9 and P is negative 10. 5 times m9 times negative 10, which is p. And remember, we can do this in any order we want. 5 times 9, we could do that first. We could do the 5 times 10 and then multiply by 9. We could do 9 times 10 and then multiply by 5. Because we have times 10 in there, let's go ahead. Let's multiply these two together first. So I'm grouping this, which is fine. That's the associative property of multiplication. 9 times negative 10 is negative 90. And now multiply by 5, negative 450. Part B, simplify 10b times 10. 10b in parentheses times 10. When I'm multiplying, I can switch the order around if I'd like. So I can do 10 times 10 b. So I just switch the order here. Which property is that? Commutative. When I'm multiplying, I can also regroup it. So I do 10 times 10 first, and then times b. What property is that one? That's the associative property. And then 10 times 10 is 100, 100b. I think most of us would probably do this without all these steps, but that's why you can do it. That's why you can just do 10 times 10 is 100b. I can switch the order if I'd like. I can also switch how I group them if I like, using those properties. I want you to pause the video quick. You work through these three. Think through which property you're using and why. Don't just rush through it. Once everybody has it, then restart the video and you'll see the solutions. So part A, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the order. Switch the order of these two. And now as I add left to right, 7 plus 5 is 12 plus k. That is the commutative property of addition. Part B, I am going to switch the order of that one as well and do 4 times 5 times m. And now we multiply left to right. 4 times 5 is 20m. Again, commutative property, this time of multiplication. Part C says negative 3 times x. I'm plugging 2 in for my x. Times y. And I'm plugging negative 5 in for my y. We can multiply in any order we want, so I'm going to do these two first, the 2 times negative 5 first, and then times negative 3. You don't have to, but this would be the associative property. Instead of doing these two first, I'm doing these two first. Negative 10 times negative 3 is 30. Negative times negative is indeed positive. The word identical, what's that mean? Identical. It means the same. It means something doesn't change, right? We have identity properties. Identity means it stays the same. It does not change. We have one for addition. If I add 0 to anything, I get the same thing back. That is the identity property of addition. And we also have one for multiplication. What do I multiply by to get the same thing back? Times 1, right? A times 1 is A. Nothing shocking there. So there's properties. We also want to talk through conversions. Conversions. So our example here says the Boston Marathon is 26.2 miles long. How many feet long is that race? So marathons, 26.2 miles long. How many feet long is the race? This should go in your notes. Spend the 22 seconds it takes to write that down. 26.2 miles we need to convert that into feet. To do that, we're going to take 26.2 miles. We're going to write that out. And we're going to multiply that by something. In order to cancel miles, I don't want miles in my final answer. I want my final answer to say something feet. So to get rid of miles, I need to take miles and I need to divide it by miles. Miles divided by miles, those units would go away. Just like if you do 2 divided by 2, it's 1 and it goes away. I want my final answer to be feet. So I'm going to put feet on top here. And then we need to think through, how do feet and miles relate to each other? Well, there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. (5,280 feet in 1 mile. So now miles divided by miles cancels here. Now I'm just multiplying fractions. 26.2 times 5,280. Well, that'd probably be a calculator problem. So 5,280 times 26.2 is 138,336. 138,336. $138,336 feet. Let's try another one. Example, how many kilograms are in 2,400 grams? 2,400 grams. We need to change that to kilograms. 2,400 grams. I'm going to multiply that by something, and I want my final answer to be kilograms. I have grams. I need to not have grams anymore. I need to divide grams by grams. Grams divided by grams is going to go away. And I want my final answer to be kilograms. So I'm going to put that on top here. Now we need to think through, how do kilograms and grams relate? We know in 1 kilogram there are 1,000 grams. In 1 kilogram we have 1,000 grams. Grams divided by grams cancels. So this time I'm doing 2,400 divided by 1,000. Final answer should be 2.4 kilograms. So that's why it's important to keep track here. A lot of times people just get in the habit of, well, 26.2 times, I always multiply. Well, we don't always multiply. Sometimes you divide. And this is the reason why. Grams cancel. The grams was on the bottom. That 1,000 is on the bottom, so we divide by 1,000. One more, last one. 7 feet is equal to how many inches? 7 feet is how many inches? So we have 7 feet. I want my final answer to be inches. Feet on top, feet should go on the bottom. Those are going to cancel, which is what I want. Inches on top here, so that I have inches in my answer. And then how do inches and feet relate? 1 foot has 12 inches. So we're going to do 7 times 12. 84 inches. That's it for the notes. Reach out if you do have questions.